Hey guys, welcome to Cape and Cowl Cafe. I'm Nemo, and today we're going to be going over your guys' Batman hot takes. This is going to be part 4. If you guys enjoy the video at any point today, I'd really appreciate if you hit that like and subscribe button, but let's just hop right into this. Alright, first take of the day. Jemothy83 says, 1. Batman using Batarangs never made sense to me, as it seems extremely irresponsible. No one has ever found one fingerprint on a Batarang. Does Robin have to pick them all up? 2. Every Batman movie should at least imply his parents' death. While it may be repetitive, new audiences still see these movies and don't even know who Bruce Wayne is. 3. Older Batman is boring unless it's with Terry. Then I like him for a little bit, but he should ultimately die for Terry to fully take over. Alright, let's address these. Alright, the first one. Batman wears gloves. You know, he's not going to be leaving fingerprints on Batarangs. That doesn't really make sense. And then, you know, the places where he's using the Batarangs, most of them end up becoming crime scenes, and the police likely gather them up and bring them in for evidence. And my headcanon is that Gordon takes them from the evidence room and just gives them back to Batman. You know, it's simple, but I think it's kind of funny. Also, this is Bruce Wayne we're talking about, multi-billionaire. I'm sure he can just make more, you know. Now, I may not have agreed with the first one, but I do agree with the second one. I do think that every single Batman movie should at least imply the Wayne murder in Crime Alley. I mean, we don't need a full 5-minute slow-mo scene like Zack Snyder did in Batman v Superman, but it should be mentioned, you know? Because when you don't, that's how we end up with situations like the MCU Spider-Man, where they go years without even bringing up Uncle Ben, and then by the time that they do, it's too late, you know? And I mean, the Waynes are essential to Gotham's history, and there are so many stories that, you know, are about their legacy and their impact on the city, you know, decades after their death, so I feel like it's really hard to not include them. You don't have to do a flashback scene every time, but they have to be mentioned, obviously. And for the third take, I also agree. I'm not a huge fan of an older Batman. I'm not a huge fan of the Dark Knight Returns story. I like it the way that it plays out in Batman Beyond, where, you know, he's kind of forced to quit being Batman after he pulls a gun on some random thugs, you know, because he realizes that he's no longer physically able to perform his duties as Batman. Plus, you know, if he's Batman all the way until he's like 60, there's not a huge time gap between him and Terry, and then I feel like Batman's, you know, triumphant return in Neo Gotham doesn't have as much impact if they're like, oh, well, we just saw this older Batman, you know, like 10 years ago, so, all right. It has a way bigger impact if there's a huge time gap, like it's, you know, been like 40 years since there was a Batman. That just makes sense to me, but whatever. 40 years might be too much. Okay, next up, Matanui says, don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I think Batman's suit looks better when 1, it's not blue, it's just an eyesore whenever they make it blue, as it's too bright. 2, he gets rid of those dumbass trunks. Why you gotta be coming after the trunks, man, alright? They're just cool, you know? Not everything has to be hyper-realistic or practical. I think sometimes superheroes just wear things because they look cool and they kind of make the look of the costume better, you know? Like, does Superman need a cape? No, it's not really practical. But he wears one because it looks awesome. And I think Batman would, you know, do similar things. I mean, his whole thing is about theatrics and fear, so if his suit was completely practical, no bells and whistles, would he have ears? Probably not. Like, I can understand the function with the cape, so there's that. Like, he wouldn't have a crazy color scheme, he'd just probably make the suit all black, which is what the Nolan trilogy was going for, but I don't agree with you on the trunks. I like them. I know it's super subjective, but whatever. Now, with the blue, I do agree with you that sometimes it's too bright, and I don't really like that. I'm not a huge fan of the blue used on the Neil Adams suit, but dude, I love a dark blue on a Batman suit. Like, come on. It just looks so good. Okay, next up, Chewy Buka? I don't know. Hot take. Batman needs to smile and laugh more. I hate the what's worse, a Spider-Man who goes silent or a Batman who smiles? Batman should smile. Did these people never see JLU? Yeah, I don't really like that hypothetical question either. You always see that posed on social media, and I think it's kind of stupid because Batman does smile quite frequently, and obviously a Spider-Man who's not talking is way scarier. But like, Batman's a human being, you know? He still has emotions, he still finds things funny, he still experiences amusement.
You didn't think I'd come here without reinforcements, did you?
Wish I'd thought of that. Oh wait, I did.
Just go watch something other than the Dark Knight trilogy, and you'll know what I'm talking about.
Wait, you're not just some guy in a bat costume, are you?
Alright, next up, Leonardo23 says, here's my hot take. Batman as a public member of the Justice League defeats the whole urban legend thing. I think he should still be a founding member, but kinda unofficial to keep that urban legend around him, if you know what I mean.
Know what I'm saying?
Yes, I know what you were saying.
I do know what you mean, but like, Batman's status as a vigilante will ebb and flow. It'll change throughout the years. So obviously he should start out as an urban legend for, those Year One, Long Halloween, those kind of stories. But I think Batman should join the Justice League around his 5th or 7th year as a crime fighter. So that way there's plenty of time for the people of Gotham to figure out, oh, maybe Batman's real, He's not going to be an urban legend forever. So while I do really like that aspect of the character, it's not one that's going to be there forever, Like, the people of Gotham are eventually going to figure out that Batman exists. News reports, there's going to be verified accounts. He's probably going to show up on the news, with, like in Arkham Origins, he's fighting Bane and Joker on the roof of the Gotham Royal Hotel, and there's a news chopper recording the whole thing, and they're like, oh, shoot, it's Batman,
After years of on and off unconfirmed sightings with no recorded video, we've seen the Bat twice tonight and caught him on film. Could this be the turning of a new leaf for the mysterious vigilante?
Those things are bound to happen, so by the time the Justice League rolls around, I'm pretty sure Batman will be a well-known figure in the world, Alright, next up, Rebel Friend 1977 says, I think there should be more villain redemption in Batman stories to prove Bruce's philosophy right once in a while. Obviously not characters like the Joker, but I do want to see some more rehabilitation going on. Yeah, I think I would agree with this. I don't think that the Joker should be redeemed ever, because he needs to make Batman look like a hypocrite, in order for characters like Red Hood to exist and for them to make sense, But definitely, Batman should be able to rehabilitate and redeem some of his villains. A good example of that would probably be Mr. Freeze, I feel like Mr. Freeze has like 1 or 2 good stories, and then him being a villain is kind of redundant. So I feel like they have to eventually kind of figure out what's going on with Nora, either kill her off, cure her, let Victor live a normal life, And that's actually something that I did with Mr. Freeze in a story that I wrote a while ago. I'll put the link in the description if you want to read it. It's pretty good, I think. Anyway, yeah, obviously there's some villains that wouldn't work for. I think Mad Hatter, Joker, maybe Bane, I don't know. But there's definitely some where you could, let them have a happy ending.
Bruce. Good old Bruce. Always there. You never give up on me.
Alright, on to the next one. The Explodinator 3007, that's a sick username. Harley Quinn isn't interesting without the Joker. If she ends up leaving him, she just needs to quietly retire into a normal life and not be put in the spotlight again. Yeah, I really don't like the direction that DC has taken with Harley Quinn. I feel like they've been giving her too much redemption and making her seem like almost a hero, In some iterations, she's joining the Bat family, she's hanging out with Batman. I don't think that would happen at all, I also don't think that she should be stuck with the Joker forever. She should go to prison, okay? And I'm sure Batman would agree with that too. And you might say, oh, well, she's just a victim, of the Joker. She didn't know any better. Yes, she did, all right? She has a PhD. She is an extremely intelligent individual. She knew what she was doing, all right? So she should still be held responsible for all of the crimes that she committed while she was with the Joker. She should go to prison, and serve her time. It makes the most sense, either that or she quietly retires and is just out of the spotlight forever. I don't know. After Harley leaves the Joker, it doesn't make sense for her to do anything else, because if she's truly redeemed, then she would realize that her taking up this persona of Harley Quinn does more harm than it does good, and she would just quit. So, I don't know. I think it's stupid. They are doing some terrible things with her. Alright, next up, the owner of the IC says, the Court of Owls sucks. The native curse on Gotham and Solomon Grundy / Deacon Blackfire are way more compelling and underused than them. Now, I can agree that I would like to see Solomon Grundy used more in Batman stuff, and not just some big monster for him to fight. I want to hear about the lore. However, I do really like the Court of Owls. I thought they were very interesting, and I loved that original story written by Scott Snyder. I did not like the ending, though. I didn't like the whole Thomas Wayne Jr. Batman brother thing. I thought that was stupid, and they kind of just added that onto the end because there wasn't a real, final boss to the story, so they're like, oh, we gotta throw one in real quick. But as a concept, I do really like the Court of Owls. Alright, next up, Omega Red 92 says, my hot take is that Arkham Origins has the best origin of Batman and Joker's relationship. I'm talking about their relationship after the plot twist. Yeah, I think I could agree with this. You know, obviously, most people were pretty disappointed after the Black Mask Joker plot twist, you know, because Black Mask is super underused in a ton of Batman stories, you know, so people were excited to see more of him, but then they're like, oh, it's Joker. It was Joker the whole time, so a little disappointed, but, you know, after that plot twist, the story was absolutely peak. And I really like how, you know, until that moment where Batman saves Joker, Joker didn't really even care about Batman. You know, he just kind of saw him as an irritation and someone who would get in the way of his plans, so that's why he put out the hit on Batman. But, you know, after Batman goes out of his way and risks his own life to save Joker, Joker becomes super obsessed with him. And that is really interesting. That's way more compelling than just, oh, he's, you know, immediately infatuated with Batman after the Ace Chemicals incident. Like, I feel like it would take more time for, you know, Joker to become obsessed with Batman. It wouldn't just be on that one instance. You know, obviously it did affect him, but he really became obsessed after Batman saved his life. Because Joker was confused. Like, he didn't understand why Batman would do that.
Now why? Why would you do that? Newsflash! I'm the one who's trying to kill you!
Alright, next up, Clinton Analog Horror says, Batman should have the white eyes. When he doesn't have the white eyes, he looks less obscured and more man than Bat. I think it really depends, because you have interpretations like Robert Pattinson's Batman, where not having the white eyes is a huge service to the character, because you can really see the emotion in his eyes while he's acting. However, if you're doing a more, you know, fantastical, mythical Batman, you have to have the white eyes, okay? He's got to look like a creature of the night. He's got to have that super menacing silhouette while he's standing in the, you know, in the shadowed alley. You know what I'm talking about. But, you know, I really see what you mean with the more man than Bat, because if you look at a bat suit kind of like Batman Earth 1, he just looks like a dude wearing a Halloween costume, you know? He doesn't look like Batman. And I know that that's the point of that story, but it's just not a look that I really vibe with, and I love the white eyes. I would love to see it in live action. I think it's an essential for a more fantastical Batman. Alright, next up. I've always thought Two-Face is too boring a villain for the popularity he has. I understand what he represents, but the interesting thing about the character is seeing Harvey Dent's transition into a psychopath. Two-Face himself doesn't amount to much more than a lesser Joker. Besides, there's the problem that once Harvey appears in the story, you already know his fate, making it hard to be interested in his character as both a reader and a writer, since many stories just rush through the transition to get rid of him. Now, I can definitely agree with this. However, I don't think it's just exclusive to Two-Face. I feel like a lot of Batman villains suffer from this problem, because, you know, with a lot of these villains, the stories have a lot of focus on their origin. You know, it's not really what they do when they're villains, it's how they got there. You know, the transition from upstanding citizen to Gotham supervillain. You know, Mr. Freeze, Man-Bat, Two-Face, Poison Ivy. And it's really easy to just say, oh, well, they just need more interesting stories. But it's really hard to make new stories and, you know, new arcs that are, you know, just as interesting, if not more, than their origins. You know, like, you're not gonna beat the Heart of Ice Mr. Freeze story. You're just not. And, like, what are you gonna do with Man-Bat after that initial story where he turns into the Bat, kills his wife, whatever? You know, like, writers have tried shoving him in with the League of Assassins. I don't really think that works. Poison Ivy, you know, her character is really nothing more than just Harley's girlfriend at this point. Like, she doesn't really do things on her own. So I think it's just rough, you know? Alright guys, that's going to be about it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed it all, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that like and subscribe button. It would really mean a lot to me. And drop in the comments down below your Batman hot takes. They might appear in part 5, if I'm even going to do a part 5. I mean, these are a lot of hot take videos. Anyway, I just wanted to address something. I know that some of you guys are probably frustrated that your hot takes aren't appearing. And, you know, the thing is, I get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments, you know? I can't feature every single take, and it's not that yours is bad or not worth talking about. It's just I scroll through the comments and I pick things that I want to talk about. It's as simple as that, you know? So don't be offended, and, you know, please don't leave me comments being like, oh, I don't want to be mean, but I'm so disappointed in you. Like, you know, it's not really going to affect me. It's just going to make me not want to pick your take more. Sorry. But yeah, until next time, I'll see you guys later.